Okay, so I'm going to begin by dropping in a drum rack into our channel, and I'm just going to rename this drums. And then I'm going to bring in our kick drums. So if you browse to your samples folder, drop in all three kicks, kick 1, 2, and 3. And if you go to the show high chain list section on the left here, and turn on the I/O settings as well, I'm just going to change all three to play on C2 notes. So if I change kick 2 to play on C2, I'll also change kick 3 to play on C2. And then I'm just going to highlight across all three of these, right click and group. So we've got a drum rack now. We can trigger all three kicks on the same note. And I'm just going to program in a 4/4 beat. So we got, let's play that round. Okay, so new disco tends to be very slow and has a nice groove to it. So we're going to bring the tempo of our track right down to about 105 BPM. Okay, so new disco tends to be quite a broad genre, and there's a lot of songs that you could easily put into the new disco category, but they to another person's ears could be in a completely different genre. That's what makes it quite hard to pinpoint new disco itself. There's a real tough side of new disco, and then there's the real sort of floaty, laid back stuff, and then there's the live sounding bass type of new disco. So I mean, I think it's a growing genre that's going to get its own subgenres in the future anyway. And the one we're going to be focusing on is the sort of laid back, more sort of groovy, chugging kind of sound. And it's got basically we're going to be putting in a nice sort of live sounding drums, lots of reverb, and then we're going to bring in some sort of stab sounds, like 80s stabs. It's basically new disco. It's almost like they've taken elements from the 70s and 80s and they've brought them up to 2010 or 2009 as it came around. So it's got elements of really old music there. And it just depends which elements you take with you. As I say, there's other new disco stuff that will be using live bass, but then there's other ones that don't touch live bass at all, and it's just sort of that sort of synthy stab, or there's maybe something that'll make you think of disco anyway. Okay, so we've got our kick drum in, and I'm just gonna go into our drum track here, and I'm gonna play this round. I'm just gonna edit this quickly. So I'm going to go to our kick 1. Okay, so I'm going to bring the sustain back because we just want the initial chug of this. And I'm going to go to kick 2 and that's fine how it is. I'm just going to bring the volume of it slightly back. Kick 3. Just bring the sustain back slightly. I was in the wrong one there. We just want kick 2 to play. So kick 3. Going to bring the sustain back a wee bit. Have a listen to this. Okay, it sounds grand. I'm gonna throw an EQ onto the final one here, onto kick 3, just to brighten up the sort of mid-high range. I think just about there. Gives it a wee bit of brightness at the top. Okay, and now I'm going to bring in the rest of our samples. So if you go back to your samples folder, and I'm going to bring in our snare, So bring snare and then clap 1, 2, and 3. So clap 1, 2, and 3, and then our crash and our ride and our tom. Okay, so I'm going to go up to our drums, our MIDI clip. We've got our kick playing on every beat there. I'm just going to make this bigger. Okay, so I'm going to go to our clap 1, and I'm just going to put in very simple clap on our 2nd and 4th. And I'm going to turn off our grid, and I'm going to make the first one just slightly late. I'll make the second one early. And then I'm going to put in a clap 2. Again, I'll turn off my grid and slightly late on the first and slightly early on the second. Clap 3, I'll put it in. Turn the grid off again. And I'm going to make these ones nice and early. More so on the first one. And then I'll put in our snare. I'll make them both just slightly early or slightly late. And then our tom, I'm just going to put in and then I'm just going to bring this across to our arrangement window by just clicking, holding tab and drop it in. I'm going to work from here from now on. Okay, so I'm going to very quickly just go through and edit a couple of these samples here. So I'm going to go to the clap. Just going to loop this around and play it. So we've got clap number 1 here. I'm just going to turn the spread up on this. And I'm going to pan it slightly off to the right as well. And then clap 2. Spread up on that one as well. So I'm just going to turn this up. And then I'm going to put it about 40 to the right. And then I'm going to go to clap number 3, which is the big long one. Okay, I'm going to make sure the release is fully up on clap number 3. Just want to hear the whole thing. And I'll add some spread as well. This is basically just a unison effect. And it gives that sort of effect of widening out. Okay, now you don't have to add the spread in exactly the way I'm doing it or pan it exactly the way I'm doing it. This is just to make it sound a wee bit wider. Okay, so next I'm just going to go down to the snare. I'm just going to bring the volume of it back a wee bit. And our tom here, this isn't going to be playing the whole way through. It's just going to be playing in certain parts. But what I'm going to do with it is just transpose it down. Going to spread it and bring the volume back. Okay, so that's pretty much our drums fine the way they are there. And what I'm going to do now is create a send return. If you haven't dealt with sort of send returns inside of Drum Rack, if you want to check out the tech tip specifically on that, it's tech number 13, and it's on the Drum Rack, and it shows you how to set up send and returns inside the Drum Rack control. So it's going to go down to the bottom here, turn the show hide return chains, and I'm going to create a return chain. I'm going to create two. First one is going to be a delay, and the second one is going to be a reverb. And I'm going to send these out to return A and return B in our actual track itself.